Hi, everyone. Welcome to Domain Sherpa. We've got a great Domain Sherpa review for everybody today. We've got Josh, Shane, and Yoni on the show, and we play the domain game where the Sherpas mention a domain they recently bought or sold, and the other Sherpas try and guess the price. Eventually, the winner will get a bobblehead or some other swag involving Mo Money, the astronaut, and the media options mascot. As usual, we also discuss a bunch of names coming up for auction on NameJet with some highlights including geo.org, floormasters.com, and jobswitch.com. We also get into a deep discussion on the benefits of using data to evaluate domain purchases. This is all coming up right now here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. So let's go. What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, aka JT, aka Jay On, and I am the host and producer of Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today's show is a Domain Sherpa review, where we get into the minds of successful domain investors using real examples so we can learn strategies and tactics to become successful domain name investors ourselves. These are the experts. So there are three segments to Domain Sherpa review. Number one, we got the domain game. So I'm changing up the segment titles now. We're trying to, we're upping our production game and our general game in general. And with that said, the first segment is the domain game. So that's where we start off by learning what the Sherpas bought and sold recently. We keep score, and as the other Sherpas guess on the price of what the buy or sell price was. And eventually we're going to be giving out prizes to the winner. We're talking about getting our bobbleheads. By the way, the astronaut, the media options astronaut, is no longer named Seth. So it's actually, his name is now Mo, like MO, like media options. You know what I'm saying? So his full name is Mo Money. You know what I mean? Mo Money. So that's what's up. So that's all in the works. The bobblehead for the prizes. Segment 2, Name Jet Gonna Jet. So this is where we review a list of domains coming up for auction on NameJet. In fact, I even have
actually wore mine today.
That's what's up. See, they're gonna have to pay us double now for the sponsorship payment this month. You know what I mean? And so we're gonna review a list of domains coming up for auction on NameJet. So we'll get into all that and see what the Sherpas think as far as what some names are going to go for, what might be some names to target, what might be some names to avoid. And then after that, segment 3 is grand opening, grand closing. So that's where we discuss anything that we haven't already covered, what's going on in the domain space, looking at the market trends, all that kind of stuff, digital assets, NFTs, and then also giving the guests to promote or talk about anything that we just already haven't covered that they want to talk about. So those are the three segments here on Domain Sherpa Review. Now, with that, let's go ahead and introduce the Sherpas. All right, we got a couple of my homies and all repeat guests and folks that are basically co-hosts of shows already on the network. So, there's not much that I need to do by way of introduction, but I will still do what I do. So over here to my right, we got my man Josh Reason, a.k.a. Bjorn Borg, a.k.a. Boris Becker, a.k.a. David Garrard. I know you're not a Liverpool fan, man, but that's what it is. For those of you who don't know, Josh is the host of the Digital Fortune podcast here on the Domain Sherpa Network, founder of DNWE, the domain name marketplace. Get signed up if you're not already a member. He's also a successful domain investor and a crypto investor, NFTs, Bored Apes, Meebits, all that stuff. He's also a very, very good tennis player and basically is my neighbor. So Josh lives here in Nocatee, Florida, Ponte Vedra, Florida, and which is paradise on earth. You know what I'm saying? If you're not in Portugal or Urbana, Illinois, you know what I mean? And that's what's up, man. Josh, what is good, my dude?
What's going on? Thanks for the intro.
Hey, man, you know how we do it. All right. Down here, lower right, we got my man Shane Culture, a.k.a. Honey Shane, a.k.a. Sugar Shane, a.k.a. Brian Fontana, a.k.a. Uncle Henry. Uncle Henry being the dad in the Wizard of Oz, who's the farmer, right? So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole trying to find who's a famous farmer, right? And Joel Salatin, have you ever heard of him?
No.
He is, I guess, arguably in agricultural circles known as the most famous farmer, right? And so
I get Mike. What's the guy? The Dirty Jobs guy. The Mike.
Oh
yeah.
Mike Rowe.
Yeah, Mike Rowe. I get him all the time.
Yeah, well, you look like him. You know what I'm saying?
Because I always got a hat on and I'm always filthy.
Yeah, I like it, man. That's what's up. Anyway, so Shane is typically a co-host here on Domain Sherpa Review. Check out dsad.com for his daily domain list. It is literally the best in the industry. He's also got beehouse.com, artisan honey, wormcastings.com, which is worm fertilizer, worm poop for your cannabis plants, for your regular plants. Make it happen. Who's the Compost Malone? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Compost Malone. That's our and Fred Wiggler's the other brand. Fred Wiggler and Compost Malone.
Yo, I love it, man. They're going on tour together, you know? So
yeah.
All right. Well, Shane, thank you for being here as usual.
It's always great to be here.
Yeah, man. And then last but not least, below me, we got my man, Yoni Belousov, aka Young Money, aka Blue Steel. Check out original.com if you want to see what he's got going on the interwebs. And as I always say, Yoni's been in the business since his teen years making that money. And big crypto, big domains, all that good stuff. So yeah, so with that, those are the Sherpas of the show. Yoni, thank you, man, for being here as always.
No problem. Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, so with that, Drew cannot make it today. He's held up again. He has got family in town, or he is otherwise indisposed, although he may jump on. I don't know. You know, he did that to us on the last show. And but at least he's not like locked up or in quarantine, so it's all good. All right, so with that, let's do it. So segment number 1, the domain game. So like I said, this is where the Sherpas share details of a purchase or a sale they made recently. They'll name the domain, the other Sherpas will guess the price, and then based on whoever wins, eventually they're going to get that Mo Money bobblehead, right? Isn't that cooler than Seth? Like, because we sold one of the domains that we were going to use for Seth. So now that's gone. So it's like every domain's got a price, man. You know what I mean? We'll sell mediaoptions.com if somebody wants to pay the money for it.
Yeah, you will.
It's so good. So Mo Money, the astronaut. We're also going to get some swag. We're going to get like shirts and some hoodies and stuff. So it's going down, man. We're going to make that happen. But anyway, with that said, all right. So Shane, I got you first on the list, man. What do you got? You got to buy, you got to sell.
Oh shoot, I forgot. I forgot I was supposed to bring something. I was ready to guess.
Well, we can come back to you. Why don't we do?
None. I got. Hold on. I sold. Okay, I got one. I sold Flowo. FLOWO, like your Flowo.
Flowo.
Yeah. Flowo. 5-letter.
5letter.com. Shane sold it. All right. And then what we do is we go in like that particular order around the screen. So Josh, you're first to guess what he sold Flowo.com for.
Oh.
Don't be like Googling it. Don't be estibating it. Don't be name bioing it. Oh, by the way, shout out to Anuj and the folks at Name Bio. I just saw that the Name Bio just got sold. So I don't know. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I was talking to him about it yesterday. Sounds like they got some interesting stuff in the works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it's obviously it's a key piece of the domaining ecosystem, you know, and and I've known Anuj for a while, and he's worked with the Name Bio guys for a long time. I think this is a deal that's been kind of sort of in the works for a long time, and you know, they just kind of finally finessed it and announced it, and I think they were on Clubhouse yesterday talking about it. I don't know if you were on that Clubhouse. I thought you deleted Clubhouse from your phone, Josh.
I actually installed it back just to give a little support to Anuj on that one. I text back and forth with Anuj. I'm gonna have him on the show at some point soon. He's a nice guy. So
yeah, no, he's a good dude, man. He's been paying his dues. He's been around in the space for a long time. You know, he's definitely been active, trying different things, trying to make some stuff happen, and you know, and yeah, you know, like you know, again, paid his dues and now making some really,
and paid
really
Adam.
Exactly.
Paid his dues and paid Adam.
That's it, man.
That's all you have to do. Those are the two things.
He paid the dude.
He's got a big portfolio though now. I mean, he's like you said, he's been like kind of like doing a few things. I know he was like on NameJet for a little while doing things there, but I mean, he's got like 70,000 plus names now. I mean,
no way, really?
The guy's he's deep. Deep in this industry.
Oh, deep in it. Yeah, so he paid his dues and then paid the dude. And, shout out to Adam, shout out to Michael, and shout out to Name Bio. All right, so with that, go ahead, Josh. You're up. Flowo.com, son. Flowo.com.
I'm gonna go $7,500.
All right, 7,500. I'm gonna go $5,000 even.
I'm gonna say, well, I want to say 75 and 1, but I'll say 8,500. That's what I think.
All right, so we got me at 5, we got Josh at 7,500, and then we got Yoni at 8,500. Yoni should just be like, all he should do is press the button on the bot. Rusky should just say like, this name is worth $8,500. Yeah.
Calculating.
All right, what Shane?
Yeah, I made it too easy just because it was one of those 5L names. It was $7 grand. $7 grand.
$7 grand, Josh.
Yeah.
Easy.
It is.
I think I won the domain game last time, by the way, JT. So
you're gonna have
I won 2 bobbleheads.
So what we'll do is bobblehead will be the first prize. Second prize will be like a hoodie. You know what I mean? We'll just go down the swag list, the hat. So all right, yeah, because so the folks know, this is a closest to the pin deal. So it's not like closest without going over kind of thing. So
yeah,
Josh gets the first point.
He should have taken 5,001.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like
oh, that wouldn't have done it either, though, because that's right, close to the pin.
But that's what I mean.
That's what I mean.
And we're going to institute into the thing too. It's like if nobody is within a certain percentage, like if everybody's so far off, then the actual person, gets the point as well. So, that
I got to bring
even if
bigger
they're on the low
ammo to
side
the game.
Yeah, so
it's like I sold a 3letter.com for $2 grand.
Yeah, exactly. Just to win it, just to get a bobblehead.
I sold it super cheap just so I could win the domain game. I'm trying to get that hoodie, man. It's like you could have just bought it. It's like, no, it's not the same. I got to win it because I haven't won yet. I've been doing this now for months and I haven't won it. So which I guess is pretty bad on my part. So, all right. So with that, let's keep it moving. We got Josh. What do you got, man? You got a buy?
Hey, don't you want to hear some details? Come on, that's an amazing
that's
sale.
That's it.
All right, yeah,
that story, selling the name isn't the funny part. So Dan, I went through Dan, and Dan, you get paid almost immediately. It's always a good thing, but I didn't get paid right off the bat, and I thought, what's going on? Is it, and then it doesn't go through, and it turns out my bank changed our account numbers. They dropped the first 2 numbers off our account for some reason to make it simple. And I think that's kind of something you should let us know when it comes to wiring money. So then I text Dan in the little box, here's my real account number. I didn't change it in the settings. So they send it again to the one in the account settings another week. I took a simple, great, quick sale and turned it into like a 60-day event just because I couldn't get into the account numbers right. But they were pretty cool with it. But I can imagine they thought on the other end of that transaction was an idiot. And maybe they're right. I kind of proved it. But it was, and it went well. And again, that's what Dan's great for is you have these short little names, you put it on there, and the commission is pretty reasonable. As far as getting that
Dan
done.
Is great.
So,
I mean, one
Does
of
that buy it now?
it was actually negotiation. I've taken a lot of my buy it now. The market's just moving a little too crazy right now because I'm afraid I'm going to leave a buy it now on something that's it's way off just because things are moving so fast. I've taken most of them off of all my names. I left a couple on there that I don't think really, they're a little off key kind of names, but everything else I've taken off and negotiated. And I've gotten more offers in the last month than I've gotten in the last year. Just crazy how it is now. Well, and yeah.
Do you ever elect to get paid in Bitcoin through Dan?
Yeah. So I did. When I screwed up my bank account twice, I said, let's just do this in Bitcoin. They said, just take a picture of your photo ID, the typical driver's license thing. And I'm going to set that up in the future. There's no reason for me not to do that. Because right now I take my money and I put third into taxes, a third into crypto, and a third into my stock account. That's how I do it. So I might as well just take every third sale from them and just put it into crypto. So
what'd you buy it for?
I think $12. That's how I started the industry. Is I couldn't find 4 letters, so I just bought tons of 5letter.coms. When I say tons, like 100. I took $1,000 and just went and random. I had Cello, SELLO, and that's changed hands a lot of times since I've sold it. But I just bought a lot of names like that hate you with a letter U, just random stuff, and long since paid for itself. But that's how I started in the industry. That's the only names I could find that I could afford were those little 5 letters that made good brands.
So did you hold that one for like, so you had
Yeah,
like
probably 10 years, 12 years since the day. Yeah. Since the very first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I've got quite a bit, the names like Weeba, WEEBA. It's just a cute little brand. It doesn't mean anything, which I think a lot of times that's great because you can make it into whatever you want.
Sure.
I've been holding it forever. I love those kind of names. Now I buy them. If that were going GoDaddy, a name like Weeba would probably go for $1,200, $1,500 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys. And so I did well on those kind of things. But again, anybody who's been in this industry for 10 or 11 years, even if you were terrible, you probably have some winners in the portfolio.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think the thing that's interesting, and I remember this during like the big China bubble back in the China wave, let's not necessarily call it a bubble, back in like 15, there was all this like, okay, but like 4 characters, were obviously, super, super big. But a big thing was like no vowels, no V's, right? That kind of thing, because, the letters that don't have corresponding characters in the Chinese alphabet and all that kind of stuff. But what I think is the interesting byproduct of that, though, is that it had people ignoring names that could have been brandable domains because, CVs and things like that and stuff or just that could be pronounceable, right? Like you remove the vowels from all the domain names and then it's like, like you eliminate that whole sort of lane of domains, and which now those domains have are more valuable, right? So and even at the time, that's kind of some of what we had talked about, and it's just interesting how that's kind of borne out. And I think that it's true, like you see it with like the name that you just sold, so
yeah, I mean, and those kind of names have held value and increased every year, and that's beauty of this market is the time makes everything more valuable. And that's proven consistent through the entire thing to the point where oneword.com, I mean, it's got to get more valuable. They're falling to nothing. There's a small handful. You saw what we saw Alcove sell for at auction at wholesale for $100,000.
Yeah, $100,000. Yeah.
All boats float.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, and it's interesting, even when you look at the NameJet list today, when I was putting it together, like, there's oneword.orgs, there's oneword.nets that are popping up, but like, oneword.com's showing up like through the NameJet expiry. You just don't see it, because it's just, those are like, they're becoming like unicorns,
Yeah. And it's every business. I mean, I'm in the nursery business, the flower business, but business is business. I have to sell something for X because I can't buy another one. Like you have to fill inventory. Our job is to replace the inventory and sell it. But if you can't get the inventory, I'm going to raise it to the price that I can do it. So if I can't get more lumber, I'm going to raise the price of the lumber I got in stock to be able to afford to buy the new lumber that I got right behind it. That's just how economics work.
Lumber market. I mean, all the commodities.
Absolutely.
Stuff is like insane, So.
And why wouldn't I? I mean, there's a guy to buy it. Hey man.
Well, I think Shane got a little jammed up here. I think that's him though, right? Because the rest of us are all good.
Yeah.
So, and
Shane got a little excited.
He was making such a great point there. So like he's gonna be frozen like that now. We're gonna have to like kind of go off camera and pretend like I'm Shane. Hey, so I'm selling lumber.
Am I still frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen in your face, but I can hear you.
Okay.
So. And keep in mind, more people listen than watch. So, keep talking. But all right, he might miss on this next round. The next round of the domain game. You snooze, you freeze, you lose.
He's gone.
Oh, he's officially out. He'll be back. All right, but yeah, well,
So shall I won't do it yet, but shall I do a .io or a .com on sale?
Can you see me now?
We can hear you and I see your picture.
Oh,
there
you
are.
go.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, but you're in like 10,
yeah, I got gigabit Ethernet or internet, and my wife says this happens about once a day. I'm like,
yeah. And now you're back in 720p. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all good, man. Ain't no 1080. But all right. So Josh was just saying, should he do an IO or a .com? And I would say do the .com.
Buy or sell.
You said it was.
I just do sales. I don't want people knowing what I'm paying for these names.
You got the sales. I just realized as I'm going through my list, I'm like, I got to sell some of my own domains. I've got a bunch of buys. Meyer the buyer, it's easy to buy.
Yeah, I was
But,
gonna say buy all day.
So, all right, go ahead, Josh. What do you got?
All right. How about we'll do YoloShop.com.
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 Oh, that's a name I should have brought. That's man.
YoloShop. All right. So I would guess first. I'm gonna say it was $10,000. That's what you sold it for.
Do I get to go third or second?
You technically are supposed to go third, so it's Yoni.
Okay.
We got to keep with the old the same thing for consistency's sake.
All right. So I guess so. It's me now, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm gonna say 7,500.
All right, Yoni with the 7,500. That means that's what Rusty says. Rusty says 7,500. All right, Shane, what do you got, man? What do you think?
$74.99.
Such a big move.
That covers everything below it, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, so that means you literally put it so that Yoni only has the window from 500 to.
Hey, I know Yoni would do it right back at me
8-7
with a smile.
Just so we know, this is where we're going to be able to point at this episode as where it went from, yeah, like we're all give each other a little bit of wiggle room. It's all good to like cutthroat, like that's it. Yeah, so you made it so I've got everything from like 8,751 up through the infinity. You've got 7,499 down to the bottom, and Yoni's got 7,500 to 8,749 or 8,750. You know what I mean? So with that said, Josh, what's the deal?
With that said, Yoni's chilling, man. Yoni's chilling. He's got it. 7,999.
No. Oh,
I went the wrong spread.
Yeah.
Exactly. You needed to go 7,501, son.
Yeah.
All right. With the smallest window, Yoni nails it. The bot nails it. So, all right.
That was a good placement though. I was hoping he's going to go 5 because if he went 5, I was going to go 01.
Yeah.
But
That would have been
at 7,500 was a nice
actually,
middle.
if he went 5 and you went 5,001, I actually would have won because I would have been closer.
Oh,
to
you're right. I would only got to 7,500.
Exactly. So anyway, with that, so now that we're gaming it, right? Now it's game theory up in this bitch. All right, so YoloShop.com, you sold it for $7,999, which I think is a good sale. And where'd you sell it, and how'd you sell it, and then what'd you buy it for?
Just buy it now on Afternic.
Okay.
And I think I paid maybe $250.
Oh wow, okay.
I need to check something. $250, something like that. Probably held it for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Honestly, I think that it's a kind of name where, I may have been able to ask 10, 15, but I think if you want to get that sales velocity right in that 7,500 range is the right range. And obviously we all kind of guessed it in that range, so I feel like it was the right price.
Yeah, no, I think you did right.
And also once you go, like into 5 figures, people get scared, even though, something like 8,500 versus 10 grand, it's not that big of a variance in price.
Yeah.
It's just kind of some sort of mental block once you get into 5 figures.
Yeah.
Do you price a lot at 9,999, Yoni?
I don't do it like that because that's a little bit too transparent, but I do price a lot at 9,000 or whereabouts. So like, maybe 8,900, 9,200, something like that.
Okay.
So, but like under 10 grand for me, it's kind of a little bit of a magical range because you can effectively sell whatever garbage you want under that range. With, like in other words, then it's just a matter of how much the person is willing to pay. Yeah. But if the name has some quality, like let's say this one, okay, there is some quality, like I can see based on the data points, there's some quality to it. So at that point, I think people are willing to accept, like anything under 10 grand, people are going to much more easily accept than otherwise.
Yeah.
So if it was, let's say 12,000, I mean, that would be kind of too hard for people to pull the trigger or to even bother negotiating. That's the real issue. Maybe they would be interested in buying it for, let's say 9,000, but somehow by, placing it at 12,000, it kind of puts people off. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's something to be said about the kind of the visuals of the numbers, right? It's just, you might actually be close, but it just deters them from making an offer if you're just in that kind of like that different bracket.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why, I mean, you don't want to scare them with the buy it now, because buy it now is a little bit of an indicator, even in terms of negotiation. So maybe you're willing to take $5,000, but if your buy it now is 15 grand, I mean, I don't know how willing the people are going to be to experiment like that.
Yeah.
And just to even bother making an offer.
Yeah, well, it's like an anchoring heuristic or something. But at the end of the day, I mean, we see it even now. Real estate's crazy now. We just recently we're selling our house and whatnot. But when we listed our house in Pennsylvania, this was years ago, and we had it listed at a certain price, and we dropped it like $5,000 or something. Then we got no offers. A bunch of people came to look at it, got no offers, dropped it like $5,000, and then immediately got more offers. You know what I mean? So it was like, but it was, I forget what the total, like, but it was, we brought it down from like above, $100,000 number to below it, it was a couple hundred grand or whatever it was. And it was like bringing it down below like a particular threshold, like let people think like, okay, there's an opportunity here. I'm not trying to pay over, but I'm okay to pay under, and that margin sometimes, or that threshold is pretty thin, you know what I mean? And it's all sort of the mental gymnastics of just, the perceived or acceptable value and all that kind of stuff. So, so I think that's an interesting
point. There's a lot of people that will browse for a name and they will literally put a hard cutoff at say 10 grand. It's like, my budget is 10 grand. So even if it's $10,001, it doesn't even go into their, into their eyesight, because it's like out of their filter essentially. So
yeah, no, that's a good point. So when you, do you sell more names, you think, buy it now at Afternic, Dan? Like, where do you have the most success, Josh, do you think? Or maybe that's too open-ended. Lately, where have you been having the most success, do you think?
Yeah, lately is probably better. Lately, I've been having a lot more success with Buy It Now on Afternic, honestly. Okay. This year more than ever. But historically, I've done pretty well through landing pages. I have my higher value names using like I use a lot of like custom landing pages. I also use the new FD landing pages. Have you checked those out? They're pretty cool. So they have like I talked a little bit about them with Doran, but they have like under construction landing pages or like a GeoCities landing page. It basically looks like retro 90s. So if you've got like valuable names, it looks like they've kind of just been like sitting there and they've been neglected, and kind of like induces like the, oh, I could buy it, but I'm going to have to pay a lot of money for it, Right.
Oh,
So I like those landers.
And when you reference talking to Doran, so Doran Vermont, who you just had the interview on Digital Fortune, on the Digital Fortune episode here on the DomainSherpa Network. So make sure, if y'all haven't checked out that episode, that was a good one. And I mean, I think that's an interesting to what, some of what they're doing. Does he have any data around conversions on some of those newer landing pages and that kind of thing? I mean, have they seen an uptick? How long have they been live?
Honestly, we not very long. So Josh, my partner Josh, Nickel, and myself were kind of testing them in beta. I mean, but only like just to make sure that they were like working and stuff. We weren't really like testing. We weren't really testing them from like an inquiry standpoint or anything like that. Right. But what like the motivation behind it was the fact that it's just. And Yoni can probably speak to this a lot. When a name is not for sale and a name doesn't look like it's for sale, you can command a higher price for it. Like if you put it simply like that, that's the reality, as opposed to having a landing page that kind of says like make an offer. I mean, already you're at a disadvantage, I think, because the person coming in is basically saying, okay, this guy wants to sell the domain, so obviously there's a good chance of me getting it.
And also make an offer, like you're letting the other person anchored to an arbitrary price that's definitely going to be worse off for you. So in other words, let's say you want 10 grand for the name. By telling him make an offer, he'll say, okay, well, what's the minimum? 500? Okay, so I'm gonna make an offer of 500. So if they say 500, then you counter them at 10 grand, you're the one who seems, kind of like non-pragmatical. Whereas if you're the one who says 10 grand and they offer you 500, suddenly they're the ones who are out of place kind of with the price, even though it's just a question of who goes first.
Yep.
True.
That's a great point. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and there's no doubt leaving up an old and I did it before. I left an old like GeoCity site up with a spinning GIFs and just a contact. Now there are a lot of low balls, but the amount of offers compared to when I switched it over to a landing page, no comparison. Everybody thought they found a gem when they saw the floating, GIFs in a thing. So they're emailing. They think some 82-year-old guy owns it and doesn't know what the value is, so they hit it. I mean, everybody, you should see it. Like pretty much the whole industry was hitting it because it was a oneword.com.
Yeah. So by the way, so that's the other thing. I mean, if it's a really valuable name, then you can kind of do whatever because, let's say somebody wants something like watch.com. I mean, it's not like they're like, oh, okay, I'll just go with my alternative 123watch.com. It's just these items are not replaceable. So in a way, then the strategy matters, kind of like the efficiency level matters a lot less because then they're going to come to you anyways. And we're talking about maybe 7 figures. So somebody who doesn't see a buy it now with 7 figures, they're not walking away. And that's also, by the way, back to the other point with pricing names at 4 figures to make them move. I mean, the other aspect there is that you also get to take advantage of kind of like the impulse buy. So somebody's just browsing, let's say something sell for 7 grand, they're much more likely to press just buy it now and get it over with, even though maybe tomorrow they'll give up and won't go ahead with their idea. Whereas if it was priced at 5 figures, that already is like a wall that stops people from making that impulse buy. So that's kind of like, obviously it's all about the psychology of prices and the psychology of interaction between the two parties.
100%. I would say at least 50% of my sales, I haven't checked the numbers, but at least 50% never get developed. Literally not even like a landing page. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say we see the same thing. We've been doing a lot more lately on trying to analyze what happens to our names post sale, right? To as we put together like buyer profiles and things like that, and get a little bit more sophisticated on some of that. And yeah, it's interesting, especially when you think about some of the sums that are paid for these names, and then they just kind of sit there and hang out, and then end up, just hanging around, but until they get sold again. So, but all good. All right, cool. Well, with that, all right. So we've got, so Yoni's got a point. Josh has a point. And all right, I'll throw out a name. So this is a buy. And just because I need to, just to try to keep the game moving along, OnlineSupportCenter.com. OnlineSupportCenter.com. So not the best name.
Who is that? That's yours?
Yep, that's mine. I bought it.
And Sender spelled the American way, I guess.
Yeah, man. How else are you gonna spell it? You know what I'm saying? Don't bring all that
Not Centra.
Don't bring that Eastern European vibe into the podcast, man. It's like shit, man. I know you you and your homies, man. You guys still got beef from Liam Neeson chasing y'all from kidnapping his daughter and shit. But it's all good. Yeah. So online, ONLINE support center, CENTER.com. So
he's typing it in, right? He's doing research.
I know he's gonna know what I paid for because
well, I'm not doing research in terms of it being sold. I just want to see the quality of the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Right. So pretty low. This is gonna come down to y'all having to get pretty surgical, I think, because y'all are gonna be, it's not a super high value name.
63.
Exactly. It's anyway, but actually, technically, Yoni, you go first because that's where you before Shane left and came back in 7.
Well, unfortunately, I think for this one, since this is probably a name drop name, I'm probably at the biggest disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because the range goes much smaller.
Like I said,
I'm gonna say $79.
79. Yeah, no, I mean, hey, look, this is the strategy, At the end of the day, it's all about just giving y'all something to guess on. So, All right, Yoni's at 79. Then I think it was Shane. You would have been next in the.
I mean, it's not a bad name. If you're going to have 3 words, it might as well have some function to it. So I'm going to say more. I'm going to say 320.
All right, 320. Shane with 320. All right, now Josh with the strategy. What is his
I
plan?
mean, honestly, I would have said 79 as well if I was going first, but I gotta go $80, right? I gotta go $80.
I believe in you, JT. Give me a moon point.
I am actually going to give the point to Josh because it was $130. So it was not it wasn't bare minimum, but I didn't get up as high as and at the end I bought it. It wasn't like I sold it, right? So I was going to pay more. So all right, so Josh has his second point, and so that's what it is. I just bought it on NameJet. I bought it a while ago, and again, I just happened to pick it out just so I had a name to throw into the bucket here, so we could talk about it. But I'll start. I got to break out some of my non.
You'll be fine at that price.
Oh yeah, and and I got to get some of these listed and some of that stuff. It's funny. I was always like, when I was at NameJet, I didn't have a big domain portfolio. I had a handful of names for different. I had jayon.com, Game 7 Music, things for different things that we were like, different businesses
functional
and stuff. But I didn't actually have a big domainer portfolio because I couldn't participate on NameJet either way, and it always felt like, it was very sensitive around that kind of stuff. So, maybe next time I'll bring a media options name. I'll just dig into the portfolio. Just do it that
now
way.
you got and it's tough now doing it now. Names are expensive. You can't bring $5,000 and be in the domain investing business very easily anymore.
No, not to get really good names. I mean, and it's the kind of thing where, and look, and that's another thing too. We kind of, from a business standpoint with Drew, it's like, obviously we're dealing with incredible domains all the time, and more often than not, names that I would even think about buying myself, like we just buy for the business, you know what I mean? So, and I'm investing that way. So, but but it's all good. So that's that. Like I said, I just wanted to keep the game moving. So now I think we've got Josh has 2 points, Yoni has 1. So right now it's just a question, and I don't know what we do if you tie. That's going to be another thing that we're going to have to figure out.
No, because I'm the one who's going to do the next name, so he already won.
Oh, so Josh won. I guess then. Yeah. Well, then unless he's so far off, right? But we have not instituted that rule. So Josh is going to be the winner, but let's go ahead and do one more name just because that's what we do. And so what do you got, Yoni? You got a buy or a sell?
Well, I mean, I could do a buy, but then it would be, let's say, something like, I thought of doing a buy on Rusky.com, but since you guys were in the auction, I don't know about that. All right, let me see what's sold. Let me check. Okay, we can do. Okay, I'll let you choose between 2 .orgs that were sold this month. Both of them pretty good. Yellow.org or conscious.org.
I want to do yellow.
I want to do yellow as well.
I want yellow too.
All right, let's do yellow.
Yellow.org.
Oh, I love that name.
Love
that name.
That's a fantastic domain name.
It was all yellow.
So technically, Shane, you would be up first. It would go Shane and Josh, then me.
Man, that's such a good name, and it was a sale.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one could be all over the board. I like the $69 one. It's a lot simpler. The Online Support Center was a much easier one to go.
Within like a $400 like window, but then you had to get surgical with it. This one, it's like,
and .org is, we talked about this several shows. It's heating up for just crypto and organizations with a lot of money have no problem using org.
And I think the reality is that once .com goes so high, I mean, everybody else has got to pick an alternative because there's nothing else out there.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And I think
Media Options sold the .com, right?
Sorry?
Who?
Media Options sold yellow.com, I think.
Yeah, a while back.
It's worth more now.
Yeah, they're all worth more now. I mean, that's the thing. It's just a chart, dude. It's like just
no, that's the joke we make. If if we would have not sold anything, we'd have a lot more money. But then again, we wouldn't have bought the things to tell the story that we bought and we can sell for more money.
Exactly.
So it all flows. I will say, man, I'll just make it a nice even $100,000. I'm just gonna say $100,000. I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be $500,000. It's a color. It's .org. No, I'm gonna change it. Don't write. Take out your pencil. I'm gonna add 70 grand. I'm gonna add 100. Yeah, I'm 170. That's like, it could be anything. I wouldn't even sell it. I wouldn't sell for, I mean, that's like yellow. It's one of my favorite names. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love it with org too. So, all right, go ahead, Josh. What do you got, man?
I'm not frozen. 95,000.
95. All right.
Did my 170 make it easier or harder on your guess?
I was gonna go. Yeah, it confused me a little bit. I'm just.
So now my question is, right? I think I'm going to go 94,999 and just take the full down to the bottom, just because it's a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
As opposed to the 95,001, because that would give Josh the bottom. So so that's where I'm at strategy wise. I'm 94,999. All right. What do we got, Yoni? What was the deal?
125.
Man.
Josh wins again.
Josh with a solid showing today, man. That was legit.
Should have stuck with my original.
That's a great sale, though.
Yeah,
it is. Awesome. It's a great name, great sale. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
When did you? So, what'd you acquire it for? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Probably, maybe. I mean, I had it for a long time. I definitely had it for like at least a decade.
Okay.
Probably a couple $100. Maybe $200.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and that's what it's about, I mean, with this, and the domain investing is a long game. This goes back to so obviously fantastic sale, great job. That's
but just for context, let's say if it went for sale on Namejet or Snap Names a decade ago, it would go for let's say $500, under 1,000 for sure, maybe $500. So it's just the market has changed a lot since then, obviously.
Of course, yeah. I mean, well, because I think yellow.org right now would sell for probably 40, 50 grand on Namejet, right? I mean, would you?
I think it's more like 10.
Right? Yeah, I think 10, 20.
Well, we're gonna know from Galaxy because it's gonna sell for more. It's worth more than Galaxy.
It got canceled. It transferred to Safe Names.
But
I was so sad about it because I was gonna go hard on that one.
Yeah,
but whatever Galaxy is, don't you think yellow is worth more than Galaxy?
I think Galaxy is better.
I think similar. I think similar, yeah.
So here's
the data on Galaxy is much better.
So what were you going to pay for Galaxy, Josh?
Me, I would have paid 15.
All right. So, you don't think Galaxy goes for 25, 30? I mean, you'll pay.
Yeah.
I mean, probably if I would pay 15, then yeah, probably it goes for 25, 20, 25. I think yellow probably goes for a little less than Galaxy.
Okay. Well, that's fair. So
it's a
15, 20K name on Namejet. So that's your wholesale price. And then how'd you sell it, Yoni? Did you, can you divulge that at all? Was it like a buy it now? Was it making a,
it was a negotiation through GoDaddy, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but pretty much through Uni Registry, we sold it.
But if did they come to you so you didn't have to pay commission? That's the beauty.
No, I had to pay commission. Commission had to be paid. Yeah.
That's the one thing I like when a broker, when they hire GoDaddy and they come to you and make an offer, it's no commission at all. The buyer pays a commission, and that changes everything.
Yeah, when you got GoDaddy operating as like on the acquisition side, right? Is that what you
mean? Yeah, that extra 15% helps a lot.
Sure. But either way, still
it's still a great sale.
And you think about like what you paid for it, what you sold it for. But this goes back to the whole thing about, the domains being, domain investing being a long game, right? And it was like when there were all those initial clubhouse rooms, right, where everybody was talking about, generational wealth through registering domains, and for folks who had no idea what they were doing, like that was one of the things I think that was kind of off-putting for a lot of us who've been in the space for a long time, to be like, look, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Even with money and time, like, it still doesn't mean you're going to win. But if you don't have time and patience and some money, you're definitely not going to win. And it's definitely not.
It's very similar to crypto, actually. I mean, it's hard to be able to do short-term trading. I mean, obviously it's possible. People are doing it, but it's hard. But if you look at the long time horizon, I mean, it really doesn't matter what you paid for it. If you bought it at the peak at the time, I mean, take 5 years, you're definitely better off now than before.
Oh yeah, and if you just buy and hold, I mean, go ahead, Shane.
Well, I was just gonna say, my saying is generational wealth takes a generation. That's good. That's like that. If it's shorter than that, then it's gonna go. Yeah.
On the t-shirt, generation.
Yeah, no, if it comes super quick, it's gonna fall. It's gonna leave super quick too. So it takes a long time to build generational wealth, or at least I think it should. That's just how it works.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Overnight success doesn't really happen overnight. Another one not as good as yours, but maybe on the other t-shirt. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Trademark, all right, sir. But and I think that for me to make real, so I've made money in crypto, but for me to make real money in crypto, I almost need to buy some coins and then fucking forget about them, and then pull up the drive or the wallet 3 years later and be like, oh shit, this is where they are. Boom, look how much they're worth now. Because in the meantime, I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna switch it to other shit. I'm gonna do other things. It's almost like I need, and even like people who when the two pizzas and all that kind of stuff for when Bitcoin was so cheap, and obviously now those pizzas are worth $200 million or whatever. But it's if I had owned Bitcoin from that far back, I don't know that I would have been able to hold out until now. I would have hold it $1 because I would have been like, yo, I just made 200x what I put in. The idea of 2000x isn't even on my radar. I'm like, yo, I'm going to take the money and run. You know what I mean? And,
100%.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, the people like Winklevoss, they act like, oh, I hold forever. That's because they're making $1 billion on their exchange. They don't need to touch it. It's easy to say that you can hold forever when you have other sources of income that you don't need to touch the original thing. But if that's all you got, and these people that invested and see it falling, and there goes, all their money, you got to at least get something out of it. It's just, it's so easy.
You mean like the last week and a half where I've been tearing my hair out?
You just gotta go. You just gotta take a walk. You know what I mean? It's funny. Now that more of my other my civilian friends are into digital assets and crypto and everything, so I'm getting calls from my peoples being like, it's
yo, what the heck have you been telling me, JT?
I'm like, yo, take a breath and go take a nap. Just get off the computer. You know what I'm saying? Don't look at your balance, because all that's going to do is get you stressed out. The whole idea is just set it and forget it. You know what I'm saying? The problem is that there are so many coins now that it's depending on what your strategy is, it's easy to be like, oh, I want to be invested in everything, because there's a lot of interesting stuff out there that's, that seems worth at least taking a shot at. Right. And obviously if you had your money really working, I know some of y'all have, and I've had crypto for a while, but not as heavy as some, but, anything that you had invested in and you bought it a year ago and have it now, almost any coin that's of the top 20, 30, 50 coins have made you, 20, 100, 1,000x, you know what I mean? So it's but it goes to show you that, if you buy stuff that is going to stick around and has utility and value and demand, and maybe some decent fundamentals, then over to, then long term, it's going to be.
Stacks fall pretty easy. If you stack something, it's going to fall. That's what I always say. I'll go stack sat. So I don't stack it. I create a base. I don't stack anything.
I like it. Man, look at you just dropping all sorts of sage knowledge, man. Uncle for sure. All right, look, we are almost an hour in and we haven't even gotten to the names list yet. So I know.
But I wore their shirt, so we're cool.
Yeah, exactly. Doubled up. Name Jack gonna jet ×2. All right. So
is that me?
No, you're
JT.
Oh, thank goodness.
Did I freeze? I froze? Oh no. After I gave you a hard time. Oh, it's telling me my internet connection's unstable. But I got 2 connections, so I can just switch to my other internet if I have to. All right. So with that, let's go ahead. Let's jump to commercial, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get into segment 2, which is the NameJet Gonna Jet. We're going to go over the list, and we're going to keep it moving here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains.
Get money.
Let's get
money.
Media Options is the industry's leading domain broker specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. As pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value, plus through their clear domain acquisition service, Media Options offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. Media Options believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
FD was built by domain investors to increase your inquiries, sales, and profit. Forget spreadsheets and archived emails. Manage your entire investment portfolio in one place using a secure and completely confidential platform. Learn more at ft.com. That's EFTY, ft.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. We're now on segment 2, which is NameJet Gonna Jet. This section is sponsored by NameJet. We review a list of domains that are going to auction soon. If you like any of the domains, make sure you check it out. You can also go to the page below and download the Excel sheet where we've got the domain name, the link, how many days are left from the time that we air the show, how many back orders as of the time that we taped the show, along with the Esteban appraisal and just some other info. So with that, we've got 16 names on the list. Last week, we went with 24. That was a bit too many, just because it's a pain in the neck sometimes to have to curate them all. But we've got a list of 16 domains that are all up soon. And some of them, in fact, there's 1 or 2 names that are actually going to auction as quickly as 2 days after the show airs. And the way these work, they're all expiring domains, which means you need to have a back order in if you want to participate in the auction. So at least get your minimum back order in on all these names that you might be into, so that when they do go to auction, that you've got an opportunity to participate. So with that said, let's go ahead and let's start with Yoni. Dude, what do you think by way of the list? Like, what names do you think are interesting, especially from an investor standpoint, that would be, that you think you could buy at a decent deal, and then go ahead and, maybe sell them at a profit? What do you, what jumps out at you, or anything you don't like?
Most of these names are pretty good in terms of data. The ones I don't really like would be something like petmedicines.com, just because the plural there, is unnecessary because plural is implied. And, the data is effectively supporting the fact that it's not that great. The other ones I don't like in terms of data are JobSwitch and Pharmology. So in other words, those are 2 names that the names themselves, they look decent, but the data isn't there to support it. So I'm not a big fan of those. The ones I like are gio.org, like Kapos, Seascapes, Traz, Docking Station. Most of them are good. Like something like familyrestaurant.com, the data on it is good, but it's just, this is going to be a tougher sale. So, everything about it screams to me, this is going to be a low value sale.
Okay. So let's talk about specifically, and I think the job switch thing is interesting, right? Because you said the data is not great. And I think that's a name that people would look at and think, oh man, like people want to switch jobs all the time. Like, now people can work remote. It makes them more agile and nimble than ever before. That could be an interesting kind of thing. But then at the same time, you've also got a lot of services and platforms that already kind of cater to that. But, but what do you guys think of a name like Job Switch? Since he brought that one up as one he doesn't like, do you guys think that one's interesting at all? It's only Esteban at 381. It's got 10 back orders, but still has about 20 days left in till it goes to auction. What do you think that thing sells for? Do you think there's potential there? Is that interesting at a certain price?
So this question is to me or to...
No, to the other guys.
So, I don't love Job Switch, although it depends on what price you can get it for, right? For me, I would probably price job switch at like 10 grand. What, maybe right under 10 grand. So, if I could get it for under $700, then yeah, I would be interested in that name. But it's going to go way higher than that. And I wouldn't be a bidder, definitely wouldn't be a bidder above 1,000. And for me, Farmology is the other one. I agree with Yoni in that, like, the data doesn't really support it being a great name. But again, it's like, depends on the price that I can get it for. It's like, if I can price that one under 10 grand and I can get that name under $1,000, I think it's okay. But again, I think it will go higher than that. This is the issue with the market at the moment for me, is that where I would price a name, it's going to go way too high for me to be able to price it where I want to price it. That's my biggest issue with the auctions at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I come from.
And Farmology, I think I included purely for Shane's benefit. You know what I mean? And I see a name.
And the ology names, there's some history to ology names. I mean, that's a branding use that people still use today. So yeah, it's a portfolio filler is what I say. Like, it just has to be in the right price. You throw it in there. And job switch, to me, I don't know. I see somewhat of I know that that's what people are doing, but there is some of a negativity in the thing. It's like, hey, I don't know. I don't love the name either.
For me, it would be less of an exact match and more of a brandable. I wouldn't be like buying it and thinking about like switching jobs. I would be buying it as like a brand.
Yeah.
But I think the reason the data doesn't support it is really just because of the alternative potential. So in other words, let's say, what's another way to call a switch, like a trade or a swap? So then you're talking about job swap, job trade. Then you can also go the other way. Switch jobs, swap jobs, and then you also have careers. So then you can also do swapcareers.com. The problem is that once you go through all these combinations, some of them could actually be available for registration, but other ones are probably for sale, and they're probably for sale for, like, let's say, $1,500. So it's going to be very hard for you to sell a name like this for 9 grand when somebody who's looking for and also, and then also you have the other variations on even the single, like, let's say, switch or switching, let's say switchingjobs.com or job switching. I mean, it's worse, obviously, but not by much. That's the issue. Like, the problem is that once you go through all the variations, you really have maybe a combination of 50 different domains that say the exact same thing and are brandable in the exact same way. So there is no kind of, I guess, particular way that everybody calls it, I guess. So this is where you get into the issues. It's kind of like just a pure issue of supply and demand. So there's lots of supply in terms of
most
options.
of the companies don't even use job in their name. I mean, if you look at all the job companies, it's Monster, or it's not Monster anymore, but they're Indeed. There's not the word job in any of the top 10 that I'm aware of.
Yeah, no, and I think that's so Yoni, when you look at your data, right? So you're looking at somehow, are you able to analyze and calculate like alternatives for domains? Like, is that something that's in your data?
I mean, in this situation, I just see the data is bad. So I'm trying to, I guess, maybe come up with a hypothesis as to why it's bad. So for me, the data being bad, effectively, I'm looking at, let's say, how other people would register this name. So is this name taking a lot of other extensions? Is this name used within the zone files in some sort of other way? Like, in other words, let's say if it was jtsjobswitch.com, that's a good indicator for jobswitch.com, because that means this is some sort of term that people actually use, and and you're not the only one who's going to use that term. So for this type of name, I'm expecting a particular volume of this phrase to be used, and it's just not there. So that's why, effectively, all these hypotheses that I came up with in terms of just lots of alternatives, that's what I were to guess for this name. But for whatever reason, effectively, other people aren't calling it that, which is what I want to stay away from, because I don't want to set a new trend for people to call it something. I want to cash in on the current trend of what people are calling it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really excellent point and a great frame of mind or whatever, like, for folks to have that's the kind of insight. That's what people are paying for here on Domain Sherpa. You know what I'm saying? They're paying for those gems. But no, but seriously, I think that's but that kind of stuff is really, really important, and which is why I'm kind of pushing on it. And yeah, but I'm with you. And I think this is probably the worst domain I've ever seen ever. Now that we've shit on it so much, I'm like, I hate this domain. I can't believe I included it. No, I'm just playing. But I think, big picture, I do think that that's a really interesting point of like when you're viewing it and you're looking at it as to, the sort of popularity or the commonality of the phrase, like and the volume and all that kind of stuff around that and variations. And then what are the other alternatives and that kind of stuff. So no, I think that.
You can also look at it from the perspective of something, let's say yellow.org. The easiest way to compare it would be to yellow in other extensions, other colors that are .org. And then when it comes down to it, you can even compare just the words in terms of their meaning. So in other words, say something like yellow.org or orange.org. Which one is better and to what extent it's better? It's possible to figure this out just from pure supply and demand. So in other words, the way that, like, how many people are calling their company, let's say something like orange media versus yellow media. Yeah. These are quantifiable questions. And once you come up with the data, that gives you kind of at least insight as to which one is more valuable. By how much, that's a harder question.
Yeah. Well, and
hey, Josh, it sounds like he's not guessing like you and I on prices.
Yeah, no, exactly. I 100% agree with Yoni though. I've discussed a couple of the same things before, but and I like that you use yellow as an example because, like, you've probably looked and said, like, is the .net available? Is the .co available? If they are available, what price are they available for? Because it's important, right? If yellow.co is available for 25 grand, it makes it very, very difficult for Yoni to sell yellow.org for 125 grand because they're always going to be, when you're talking about that kind of money, they're always going to say, okay, what are my alternatives?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. This is all a game of odds. So, like, let's say that doesn't mean that you can buy job switch, let's say for $500 and sell it for 10 grand. That's not really, we're not talking about kind of like a binary solution here of like, you're either going to sell it or keep it forever. But, I would way rather to pay the same amount of money for a domain that I can sell for the same price, but just have a higher likelihood of selling.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
No, and I think that makes sense as to also why geo.org, which I also agree is, one of the best names in the list because, when you look at alternatives and based on what, you can measure it, you can understand the demand for it. And obviously it's short and, And
to be fair with those ones, there are one words in a way, it doesn't matter what extension. Those are easier calls to make because there's less complexity in terms of usage because obviously everybody knows what, yellow is or, and whether that's favorable or not, and whether people name their company something with the word yellow. The harder ones are obviously the ones that become a combo of words, and then because a lot of them are kind of brandable and they don't have data to support it, so then you have to really nitpick the data out of it. But personally, I don't like, let's say, setting a trend. I would much rather take a trend that already exists. Like, because when people come up with names that they want to call their company names, they would like to think that it's unique, but it's actually following the exact same patterns and trends that are out there. So, I would much rather buy a name that has, 10x the data that I'm looking for than one that doesn't.
Yeah, excellent point. Let the data drive it. I like it. All right, cool. Well, so let's keep it moving then. Shane, so as far as on the list, what about you? Is anything, what other thoughts and did you have?
Yeah, I think I agree with Yoni in like family restaurant. At some point there's probably 10,000 Johnson's family restaurants, family, and they're going to buy family restaurant just to keep it shorter, but it's not going to be a huge amount of money. So you just can't pay a lot. Not a bad name. And I'd put it in my portfolio, put a buy it now on it for 4,900 and some family restaurant will probably take it. It works.
Yeah. And that one actually, sorry to interrupt, but that one actually is, in a way, that one is an outlier because that one has really good data. And that's just strictly in terms of other people. Yeah, like you said, they're calling their company or their restaurant name, they're calling it John's Family Restaurant. as a result, there's a lot of registration with family restaurants within it, but on its own, it doesn't make that much sense. So, here you kind of have to, have a semi-automatic process, because you can't just pay just pure data for that name unless it's very low.
What if the domain was Chinese restaurant?
Different. I think it's Chinese restaurant is way better, but in terms of resale potential, but you still get into this issue that, first of all, names with something restaurant.com, especially if it's singular, then you already are kind of entering a different territory of prices, because how much is a restaurant going to be able to afford, and who is this party who's buying it? There are some outliers for that as well, but again, in this situation, just the data doesn't help you. You need to kind of make a final decision just on whether it makes sense for you to, let's say, have a restaurant and to go pay 20 grand for a name like that. Probably not.
Yep. No, I think that's a fair point. And so it's interesting. I think the appraisal at 32,000 is high, right? Which is also why if you look at it, the idea that you've got 14 back orders and only 2 days left until the auction, or 4 days from now, actually. But the, because like you said, like is particular restaurants, unless they're, big chain type things, like, and it's so generic.
And if they're big chains, they're not throwing restaurant at the back end of it anyway.
Yep. And at the end of the day too. And it's like, and it's so generic that it's just they're not going to call themselves that family restaurant, but, so, all right, cool. Well, what other thoughts or anything else?
Yeah. And I think again, there's plenty of room for names like Floor Masters. I don't have the data in front of me, but again, I look at it all the time. How many extensions is it registered in? And then the other column, like on expireddomains.net, has the column of that term in other forms of names. And that's, if I see a name that has, let's say, 30 or 40 extensions taken, but then 500, 600 use, then I know that it's a good name, that it's going to come around, because other people are going to, make it shorter and use that name. And I do it all the time in like lawn mowing business, like mowing and lawn care. You can flip those names all the time, because there's a million acronym lawn cares that you can sell all day for $1,500. I know the lawn care people are willing to pay $1,500 for a lawn care name. And if you just buy every acronym of lawn care, you're going to sell the names, because it's in their wheelhouse at that price. Knowing your market and what they're pay, a restaurant, I don't know that market, but my guess 5,000 is probably it. We already discussed, I think, with Siger, all the names in yoga get taken all the time, but yoga, they never buy any of them.
Super
they
cheap,
pay nothing.
Yeah, that it's funny. I remember that episode and that comment, because I saw a yoga name popped up in the list this week, or a potential name, and I left it off there specifically because I remember us talking about it, and that yoga names just don't sell well because yoga studios aren't exactly flush with cash, and so it's just the kind of thing where
So you got to know your market. And Floor Masters flooring, you're not going to find a hotter market. Interior, like if they're going to buy a name right now, somebody that specializes in hardwood floors and reflooring, and it's probably the time to do it. It all just comes down to that price and can you make it. Pet medicines, people are going to see that and think that's a $50 trillion business, but they want pet meds. That pet meds is the name there. That's the name that somebody's going to buy, and not pet medicines. But at auction, it'll go for more than it should, just because how many times have we talked about this? People think that's the industry is $1 trillion industry or $20 billion industry. And so they assume that name's worth a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm with it.
And also, you have a lot of investors that English is not their first language. So, this type of context isn't going to be obvious, so as in a word like combo like pet medicines doesn't really make sense, especially as a brand name. Maybe if it was medicine or like you said, like meds or med, and then, then you get into obviously the brandable ones that are kind of on the same topic. But, this is effectively a weak name, but somebody whose language is not their first language, they might not notice it.
Yeah.
Well, what about
but I think a name, and I'll just make it short, but a name like Traz is going to do well. A pronounceable 4letter.coms just kill it right now. It's money, and it's not peaking because I think it only goes up from here. But it's a short anything name. Nobody's going to mess it up. And, like what was I looking at? Docking station. No, there was one name on there that I was thinking that somebody's going to mess up the name. But anyway, but Traz is going to crush it.
Hyperad or Hyperad?
Yeah, where is
it?
Oh, yeah.
If that should be
Hyperad
or Hyperad. I think either one, is kind of interesting depending on if you could get it for a couple $100. Traz, I think, is a cool one because I could see that being a coin. You know what I mean? Like Traz coin, like 4-character.
I think that name.
That to me is probably one of my favorites. I like Latino.org a lot too, although I don't know what
huge market. And that's, I think, the proper nomenclature when it comes to, what people are using. I think Latinos accepted. I do mess up on things like that though, of what
and then you
we're supposed to use and not use. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the thing when you get across languages and you're talking about, and culture, not just language, but the cultural use of it, right?
Super important.
The black and white, sort of translation might be one thing, but then they're like, no, nobody actually uses. I remember that with some of the new GTLDs, we had the .desi folks were trying to sell some of their premiums through NameJet. And, when we talked to some other folks from that area in that region, they were like, that term in some cases is actually offensive to folks. They don't like being referred to as that. Like it's not, but other folks, it was an interesting, and I wasn't, it's hard when you don't know because you don't know. So, and I'm, I just remember that being one of those things where you realize pretty quick, like you've got to be sensitive to that kind of stuff and pay attention to those kind of details. So, and we've only got about 8 minutes left. So before we, so let's go ahead, Josh, why don't you give me some of your thoughts on the names, and then from there we'll move quick into segment 3 and then let you all off the hook. But what do you like or don't like?
I don't like dockingstation.com. I think that's going to go way higher than it should go.
Well, and look at the appraisal. The appraisal on that's almost $150,000, right? And I would kind of agree. The singular, it's like, how do you use that? I guess you would try. Are you trying to get type-ins, like people that are saying, I need a docking station, and then get to dockingstation.com? I mean, how do you monetize that?
I mean, those kind of exact matches that don't really work as brandables, they're gone for me. They're just gone. I honestly, I have zero interest in that kind of name.
Yeah.
So, is there a use case in very unique situations? Sure there is. Yeah. But it's like Yoni said, this is a numbers game. Like, is that the kind of name that sells on a frequent basis? No, it's not. And unfortunately, it's the kind of name that gets bid up in auctions as well. So not a great combo.
Station, so I can buy Traz for my Traz coin, which is going to be really, because it's really cool. The utility about the Traz coin, what it does is it allows you to, not only do we do frictionless payment, but like there's a social aspect to it too, so that it allows you to connect with other Traz holders as part of one big community. Which is where.
And you buy docking stations for all the poor people.
Oh my God! Can I write you a check for $22 million right now?
Traz coin, and so yeah. But I'm with you. I mean, I think that's what's interesting about some of these names. But I think it's also where it shows you the availability even of names on NameJet. Like some of the stuff that's flowing through. And some of it is also perspective, right? It's like, man, docking station looks like a great name when. You don't have a lot of other .coms that stand out necessarily that aren't in other kind of buckets. Whereas you've got some incredible .orgs, that are kind of flowing. We normally cover a couple of the names and we're tight on time, but running through like a few recent sales that happened, go with the Flowo, which we all talked about and we love. That name sold for $12,000 or 11.8, right?
Wow. That went way higher than I thought it would go. I thought that I might be able to grab that under 5K. No cigar.
Yeah, I think I had a $3,000 or $4,000 bid in the mix as well, and then then it did what it did. Patio speakers, which y'all didn't like, sold for $211. You know what I mean? So it was like, which I thought was an interesting thing because it seemed like such a very
barely buy patio speakers for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I mean, at some point you're like, that's actually I would have taken that for $211. But you look at some .nets that went off around that same time, Graduate.net and Emperor.net. One sold for $1,750, the other sold for $1,670. So interestingly,
I'm sure Braden bought both of those.
But interestingly, it sort of establishes that's like sort of the wholesale NameJet price for those one-word .nets. And you know, but it lets you, kind of what it shows me is that,
Unless it's
.orgs.
butterfly.net, and then I
wow.
change the
Then
volume.
you step
Yeah,
up.
yeah, hey, if you can get like, an actual, exactly, like, almost a hack, and then luxurygoods.com sold for 10,500.
I was bidding on that. I like that name.
And then the Beach House sold for 8,300, 83.
I like that name as well. But that's the thing. Like, I like all these names, but I like these names under 5K. Like, not. It's just I can't get that. I just can't get
The Beach
there.
House is pretty special in the fact of, I mean, there's a million bars named that, restaurants named that. There's just so many end users with that name already. That's
you can get hotels and and all that,
hotels.
I mean,
It's a lot
But
of
they
higher end.
don't pay. But they don't pay. They just don't pay anything. They're like, yeah, I'll give you $1,000.
We saw one of the, I forget which one in the NamesCon auction, that Andrew Miller was working out, that it was like a Nantucket hotel that was the end user buyer in the auction, and spent some real money on that. Although at $8,000, I don't know how you're gonna get $80,000 for it. I just don't see it.
Yeah, that is.
It's like Drew sold Cappuccino.com last year, right? And he got like 50K for it. I mean, Cappuccino is a great name, but it's
hard to
the
spell.
type of.
It's hard to spell. Yeah.
Hard to spell,
I guarantee if I typed it out right now, I'd blow it up.
When you think about
Like, I mean, you can't tell somebody go to cappuccino.com to view my products. I mean, you're sending them to a
you
black
can tell them to go to Traz.com and they'll know.
Yeah, that's
Traz.
true.
Another one on the
Yes.
current list, you talking about vacations, is seascapes, right? .com, which I actually think is pretty cool. I like it as like sea escape, vacation type stuff, like that.
Yeah, that's a cool name.
Seascapes, like, more so than just like, some kind
That's more European too. We don't really say seascapes here, but
I think that
I mean, we
one's kinda
do,
neat.
but-
So they're sort of just bringing it back to the list. So with that, we're actually running way out of time. I think we've covered a lot of ground on the show. Do you guys have anything in these last like 2 minutes that we didn't talk about that you want to mention? You got anything going on that you need the audience to know about?
Let me go first because I got to bounce. I will just say this: if you guys are listening and you're looking to sell names, you can check out our new Dutch auctions at DNWE, which we just got started in beta. We're doing a few tweaks this week, but you can test them out. They're live and sold a couple names on there already. Just go check it out.
Yep, get to DNWE, the new Dutch auctions, dnwe.com. Make it happen. You got a slogan? You guys need a slogan. You got one?
We need all kinds of stuff, man.
Generational wealth takes a generation. No,
yeah, I'll have one for you in about 10 minutes.
No, but hey, for anybody who's not, I mean, you're missing out if you're not on there. I mean, there's deals that pop up. It's also great if you've got a lot of domains. It's a really good platform to sell your domains, and they're doing amazing things from a technology standpoint. So if you're not hooked up there, get there and make it happen. All right, cool. Shane, you got anything else on your end to?
No, I mean, I'm still like a guy with a foot nailed into the ground, spinning in circles. DSAD, I still try and hit it every day. I go through the list. That's really I love it. That's my relaxation, is just going through the list, going through names, looking at things. It's an expensive market out there right now. It gets tough to spend that kind of money on some things you're going to sit, as we talked, for a decade in your portfolio. But
they're only going to get more expensive if you
It's
wait.
only going to get more expensive. Crypto's exciting. I love volatility. I know everybody's getting crushed in it, but man, I love when things fall and go. I've been documenting my Ford versus crypto purchases. I sold a lot of crypto and bought Ford options, and I was looking like an idiot. And now it's all back even, so we get to start over, kind of.
The Lightning, the Ford F-150.
Ford F-150 is a legit truck.
So, and then
so that's all that's going on for me.
And Yoni, anything with you, man?
No, I got nothing to sell. So
that's a good way to be, man. You're just living and making money.
Just domains.
I love it.
Just domains.
He got other stuff.
Oh, yeah, he's all good. Anyway, so with that, man, thank you, everybody. And I'm going to say thank you to the audience as well. I say it on every show. Without y'all, there's no us. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know if we're missing something. Chime in, get engaged, get active. We're here doing what we do here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Thank you so much for your time, my guests, my panel, my co-host, whatever y'all are exactly. And again, to all y'all out there, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Peace out.